Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, it's not going to be a dull 4 years. I can tell you that. The next 4 years, you're just going to have to keep your head on a swivel. It's like watching a tennis game, just going back and forth and back and forth. Because here it comes. It's like, are we getting rid of the Department of Education? Are we getting rid of the Department of Labor? Elon Musk has the keys to the castle. Now we're going to annex Gaza. Now we have a Trump tariff war with Mexico. Now Canada is going to send troops to the border. Now China's 50% tariff. There's so much going on in just the last 24 hours since the last time I did a James Show. I could do like 10 shows on just what's happened since the James Show finished yesterday. The next one we're going to talk about, don't worry, we'll get to all this eventually on the James Show. But I love this one right here. I like the idea of owning Gaza. I didn't think of this before.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
Yeah, and I've always thought there's something missing from the options that were laid on the table whenever it comes to the conflict there in Israel and the Palestinians, Gaza, West Bank, all that fun stuff. Because, the question is, well, should this area be controlled by the Arabs? Should this area be controlled by the Jews? And I've always thought, Christians? Excuse me. And it's not that I want to go genocide out the whole place. We could just rebuild Gaza, let them see what life would be like here from the Christian world, and just convert them. That's how you win them over without having to have bloodshed or whatever. And if we rebuilt Gaza, they would probably convert within like 10 years. Because, and I don't mean we as in Americans, I mean we as in specifically Texans. Texans need to rebuild Gaza. Number one, we can just spit out suburbs like it's nothing. Like we just came up with Frisco in like 8 years. There was nothing there. There's a couple of cow pastures and a grain silo. And then all of a sudden, Stonebriar Mall. And here's some corporate headquarters. Here's a giant football stadium. And here's 30,000 single houses. It was fantastic. We do that here. We can do that like in Austin where just Georgetown and Round Rock. These are all sudden towns now. And when you go to look at Houston, they just keep stacking on suburbs over there. Here's the Woodlands. Here's Conroe. Here's the Katie's now giant. So we could just take that like blueprint because all those suburbs kind of look alike, and we'll just build it there in Gaza. Because, look, how about number one? Gaza would be a lot better if it had a Buc-ee's. Can we all agree with that? But listen, maybe I should explain my Texan position first here. Because one thing dawned on me long time ago. My job, when I finally first got my first radio job, I was working at the mall. I was working at a vitamin shop. And one of the stores I worked at was in Valley View. And the guy across the store from me, he was a Palestinian. He was a Palestinian Muslim. His family had come here when his parents were younger. And he was raised in Florida, but his dad had a store upstairs called Milano. He ran Zillies. His name's Cleo. And it finally dawned on me, hanging out with him and his family and going to restaurants and stuff, how we are so alike, us and the Palestinian, the Muslims, Arabs, Christians, whatever your religion is. We have a whole lot in common, and more so with other American subgroups. Because I love guns. Texans love guns. You know what? My Arab friends, they all love guns. Yeah, we love that stuff, right? I mean, you can see them on TV. Guns play heavily in that. But some guy who's wearing like the tie-dyed shirt from Colorado Springs, probably not as into guns as me and you and our new Arab friends here. We would have more in common with them than with like a David Hogg. But think about this. They love drilling for oil. We love drilling for oil. Ooh, you love oil? You mean you're not worried about the climate, or you're not worried about fossil fuels, or we should have paper straws? See, we agree with the Arabs on that. More so than the purple-haired college professor from Berkeley, right? We like to drive around in big flashy cars. They like to drive around in big flashy cars. Not a Prius. You ever seen a sheik in a Prius? You ever seen a chic in one of the, like a tiny little Ford Focus? Gets good gas mileage. You ever seen a chic on an electric scooter? Of course not. We're pretty serious about religion. So are they. Well, I mean, it's not the same religion in many cases, but we're not like those atheist weirdos that are like, there's no God. This all just came from nothing. There was nothing, and then nothing happened, and then there was everything, but there's definitely nothing outside of this. So we have more in common with them when it comes to religion, when it comes to cars, when it comes to oil, when it comes to guns. We're also more manly than your average Berkeley student. And we both agree, Texans and our Arab friends, that Europeans are kind of sissies, right? They're sort of like effeminate. Like they wear Speedos and tight jeans a lot. And I don't know, they're kind of suspicious to us. So yeah, if we take over Gaza, Texans should be the first in line to rebuild it. We'll give them a Buc-ee's. They could probably use an IKEA. A bunch of their couches and furniture got blowed up, so we could do that. They definitely need like a Home Depot. They could use some building materials. But really, I mean, just think about all the stuff we have here. Just transplant it over there. Best Buy, probably, it's about the size of Dallas County and Collin County put together. So they're probably going to need about $280 generals. But let's just kind of start infusing our culture in there. Give them like a Uncle Julio's or an El Phoenix or something like that. And a grocery store, I think, would be super important. I vote Brookshire's because that's like the Christian version of the communist HEB, Brookshire's. And I don't know, maybe Kroger or Tom Thumb. I like those too, but just build one of our suburbs over there and watch them. How could they hate us after that? How could they hate us after seeing the wall of jerky at Buc-ee's? I don't think they can. What do you think of the U.S. taking over Gaza? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So Trump floats the idea of the United States taking over Gaza, doing a rebuilding effort and moving them back in. Immediately, just dumb questions keep flying out like, oh, well, there's the 1.8 million Palestinians. What are you going to do with them in the meantime while the whole place is under construction? Excuse me. Greenland? Andrew in Farmers Branch. If you want to be after Andrew, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Hey, Andrew, what's your thoughts on U.S. taking over Gaza?
Okay, so the United States spent trillions of dollars, and we've had thousands of casualties trying to turn Afghanistan and Iraq into Indiana, which completely failed because, number one, their constitutions are the Quran and Islam. And number two, those countries still don't recognize Israel, and no one with an Israeli passport can enter those countries. And if you go to the wiki page for the Iraqi Constitution of 2006, it says, quote, Islam is the state religion and the basic foundation of the country's laws, and no law may contradict Islam. So the United States should not put one penny into Gaza until it has a secular constitution with a Bill of Rights and it recognizes Israel.
So if they did have a secular constitution with the Bill of Rights and they recognize Israel, would you be okay with it?
That's the beginning.
Okay. Look, I think you're making some good points.
Without that, you're putting money down a rat hole, and which
we've seen.
Do you want to be killed first?
Right.
Who wants to be killed first?
So I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just going to give you a couple of points of pushback on that. Now, Iraq is not great. It's not the liberal Western democracy, and I'm using the lowercase L, not the American connotation, but the statecraft connotation. A liberal democracy, which they didn't have before, and granted, their constitution does have a religious base to it. They're not invading their neighbors. They didn't invade Iran like they did under Saddam Hussein or Kuwait under Saddam Hussein. They're no longer a state sponsor of terrorism, and they're not oppressing the Kurds in the north. They're better. They're not great. They're not Indiana, but I don't think all that was wasted. All the time and effort that we spent in Iraq was necessarily wasted. Now, Afghanistan, a little bit worse. The best we're getting out of them is they're still living in what looks like the Old Testament with AKs thrown in there, but they're not. They don't have Al-Qaeda training camps. They're not launching terror attacks on the United States. We haven't had one plane hijacked since 9/11, and then before that, they tried to blow up the World Trade Center with like a U-Haul van or something, a bomb in it. And that's kind of stopped. So it's gotten a little better in Afghanistan. I would say it's gotten a lot better in Iraq. But the ideal that I think, historians look at is like South Korea. Look what happened there. That intervention and that civil war. We have a country with they went through a ugly military junta period, but other than that, they've been sort of a liberal democracy with the full complement of human rights.
And they have a secular constitution with a Bill of Rights.
Yes,
you can invest money in there without it disappearing.
Right.
Or,
but we're back in agreement here. So there's scales. Like, not all of our interventions are doomed to failure. Some of them have been wildly successful. I mean, we were threatening to wipe Japan off of existence, 80 years ago, and then here we are, best buddies with them.
With a Bill of Rights.
You're making great points. Yeah. So I like your sticking point there.
One point of interest that I kind of found on the internet in the last year, that the Palestinians they don't originate from the Middle East. They're actually, during the Roman Empire, they were immigrated from Greece. They were called the boat people. So during the Roman Empire, they all migrated to that area during the Roman Empire. So, and I've got a Greek friend. I told him that. It's like, you got a good point, because they look Greek to me too. So who owns the land? I don't know. They're basically Greek people is what they are.
Well, where do you set that clock back? Because if we set the clock back that far, can the Christians take Anatolia back? Can we get Constantinople back? If we talk about who is and isn't native to lands, that's a super dangerous game to play. But I like your sticking point: secular constitution, Bill of Rights, recognize Israel. I kind of also like the idea of taking it over, and then this will just be a new province of Israel, because Israel's not throwing people off buildings, and they're coming up with Nobel Prize winners, and it's like the only place in the Middle East that doesn't have oil, and they're more prosperous than the rest of them. It's the damnedest thing. But I like your points. Good stuff, Andrew. Appreciate it.
All
right, that's Andrew in Farmers Branch adding to the conversation. He gets 6 points. You know what? I'm glad you asked. He does deserve points for that. Your thoughts, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. And look, if you want to get specific like Andrew, I thought that was great. Now, I saw some jokes. Someone sitting on Facebook, can we send the Mavericks over there? I already said that. Didn't I say that in the first segment, or did I say that before the show? I said that on the show, didn't I? Okay, because I made the joke to Bruce earlier. Because they still had the guy that has to guard the Dirk Nowitzki statue out here. We're at the American Airlines Center where we broadcast from. And they've had some poor dude, I said the lady yesterday, some dude with a folding chair just watching it so that someone doesn't spray paint the base again. You children. Goodness gracious. But yeah, let's rebuild it. Let's put in a Buc-ee's, an IKEA, a Best Buy, an Uncle Julio's, some Brookshire's in there. Let's just turn it into like Diet America. And how could they hate us after that? I've always thought if we just gave them free cable, like if we let the Ayatollahs have a Netflix account and like a wide open DirecTV account with all 700 channels, they'd be like, you know what, this whole American experience, that doesn't look too bad. Have you seen this Scarlett Johansson lady? Maybe we were too hard on our Christian brothers over there. I'd like to see what they do with the Top Golf. You know what else? Let's not all just make it our wish list. Let's just go ahead and put some stuff that you don't like in there just to make a point. Let's see how well a Planned Parenthood flies in the Gaza Strip. See how much they love that one. Let's do an LGBT parade for them. You think they'll love that? Oh, that'd be hilarious. They probably will like some cupcake shops, though. Also, when he talks about the place being destroyed, I was thinking to myself, this is the ultimate fixer-upper. Wait a minute. Fixer-upper? We could send Chip and Joanna over there. This will be the new season of Fixer-upper. Did they get divorced? Are they still together? Because they could fix that thing right up. There'd just be shiplap all over the place, and we're going to knock out this wall, and we're just going to open up all this space in here and make it livable, and, just so the traffic flows, and, we got to get rid of this wood paneling over here. And, oh, my God, does this mosque have popcorn ceilings? Oh, this is so gross. It would be a whole new season. It'd be fantastic. It could be HGTV, but the G stands for Gaza. See what I did there? Dude, we're just solving problems. All the world's problems are getting solved on today's show. We'll just finish this, and I don't know what we're going to do on tomorrow's show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Luke Bryan coming to Dos Equis Pavilion June 20th. It's one of the contests we have going on right now. If you want to win some Luke Bryan tickets, text the word SONG to 800-288-9227. And that won't guarantee your tickets, but you will be entered in the contest. And we're going to give them to somebody who texts the word SONG to 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Chris Putnam from the Dallas Express on what he saw at the illegal immigration protest this weekend. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Your thoughts on some of the Trump executive orders? My favorite one is taking over Gaza. Real close behind that, though, is the executive order that he signed for Iran, where the executive order says if Iran assassinates me, you need to obliterate them. And the media, like after he signed it, the first question is like, are you expecting to get assassinated by Iran? Well, not necessarily. I just want to throw it out there.
Why is it you're unhappy to sign it if it's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani?
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do, not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why. Lack of intelligence, perhaps.
I don't know. That's so funny because I didn't hear what caused this. And you probably didn't either. But can't we both just assume that he didn't pull this out of nowhere? Someone in Iran's government, maybe their president or one of the Ayatollahs, probably said, if anything happens or if America doesn't step down, we're gonna take out the great Satan. We'll take out Trump himself. That there's probably something that predicated this that I don't know about and you didn't know about, because this didn't come out of nowhere. Because like if your wife came home and she just says, hey, you know what? If you cheat on me, I am going to kill you. Well, where did that come from? What, did you hear something? Did you go through my phone? Was there a car in the driveway I don't know about? Like, that had to have come from somewhere. So I love that. And I really don't know if I like that one more or less than the Gaza situation, because the Gaza situation I don't even think is really going to happen. I feel like this guy is using this as a base for negotiations. And I think that because I read his book. I read one of his books. I think he has multiple ones, but I read Art of the Deal, and I read it not that long ago. I didn't read it back in the day. Someone mentioned the first time he was in office, you really should read his book. He's just following his own playbook. And sure enough, I think I read it in like 2017. And he talks about how he negotiates. And a lot of it feels like it's lifted from the old Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, where you do a thing in a business negotiation where you set the table in an untenable fashion, so both sides necessarily have to work towards a compromise or a resolution. You don't tell the Gazans, hey, you need to come up with a ceasefire with Israel or things are going to continue as they are, because they'll say, well, cool, then we'll just continue things as they are. No, you need to come up with a ceasefire against Israel, or we're just going to take over Gaza and we're going to do a bunch of dumb stuff like build a Dave & Buster's or some bike paths or something. And that'll bring them to the table. That's what this is about. So I'm not saying this is even 4D or 3D chess. This is just basic business school negotiation tactics. And it's crazy that a lot of people don't recognize that. I do like how crazy the reaction is to just about everything he says now. Check out Chris Matthews on MSNBC to the Gaza.
Well, what you and John has been saying since early this morning, I think it's the craziest idea I've ever heard in my life. 2 million people living in Gaza, a problem that Israel has, and now we're going to have. We want to own Gaza. We want to take those 2 million people and somehow lure them to go to Jordan or to Egypt. Neither of those countries want them. Imagine Jordan. It's already overwhelmed with 60% of its country are Meds who come from the Palestinian areas. They don't need any more trouble. They don't need Hamas in their country. Hamas is now going to move to Egypt and to Jordan and destroy those countries. Oh, what? By the way, it's also going to become a new hospitality center along the Mediterranean. I mean, give me a break.
All right, and his rush to make everything Orange Man says bad. Are you just admitting that giant swaths of illegal immigrants storming over the border would crush the host nation and make it would damage it beyond repair? Well, hey, welcome to Team Red, Chris Matthews. You mean to tell me that taking 1 million or so people out of their home country and putting it into their neighbor's country isn't good for the neighbor's country? They wouldn't necessarily like that? Gee, that's an interesting immigration take you got there, Chris Matthews? See how if everything that you come up with is just the opposite of what Trump says, eventually you're going to bite your own tail. Eventually you're going to have to step on your own toes here. That's awesome. I just love making them admit that, you can't just have some country take on tons of illegal immigrants. I mean, that would be bad for the host country. Can you just say that again, but really slow? They'll get it one day. Updates, though. We had a Delta Airlines plane and a Japan Airlines plane bump into each other on the ground in Seattle. Now, the good news is no deaths, no injuries. I don't even think there's a fuel leak or a fire or anything. The airport has announced on social media that they've responded to the incident. It's been contained, and they didn't even have to do any big cancellations or whatnot because both of the planes were already on the ground, so it's not blocking one of the runways. There's no fire truck that's out there squirting water on anything. So things are just continuing along. And look, this is happening exactly 1 week after we saw that passenger plane bump into the Army Black Hawk helicopter, killing 67. So if we're a little sensitive about airline accidents, it's because too much of a coincidence here to have that, the Philly plane that crashed just north of Philadelphia over the weekend, and now this. We don't usually have planes bumping into each other or crashing. That is a super rare event in all of aviation, but even more hyper rare in the American sphere. So any news that comes out of that, anytime like there was the flight that got turned around on Monday, some Delta flight is carrying 158 passengers from New York to Orlando. It was diverted to Raleigh due to an odor in the cabin. Now, would they normally do that if a plane stunk so bad? I don't know. But if we're all a little hypersensitive right now, it's because plane incidents happening in rapid succession is too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. Something going on here? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we'll talk to an immigration attorney about what's going on with the deportations and immigrations and the protests next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I just want to share with you some feedback from other listeners like yourself from earlier in the show. So we started off the show talking about Gaza. And Donald Trump, if you're just joining us, that was one of the executive orders that he signed yesterday, and it's already been driving people crazy. And look, I don't know if this is just Trump setting the stage for some negotiations to make a ceasefire happen, or if he genuinely has plans to build some sort of resort on Gaza. I mean, it is like all waterfront property pretty much there. It's some prime real estate. It would have been really big in the Roman Empire. Well, I guess it was big in the Roman Empire, but I was making fun thinking, well, that should be a job for Texans. We kind of mesh well with Arabs as it is. We love guns and oil and religion, and we think Europeans are sissies. But jokes aside, Dylan writes in and he says, I guess everyone else is misunderstanding, or I am. When I heard Trump talk about it, I was like, oh, yeah, 51st state on the beach. It would give us a place for a military base on U.S. soil in the region, and we could have a beach destination for all Americans where we don't need a passport to go to. We could fly into Trump International on a direct flight from DFW. He's got this all figured out, doesn't he? It would be under our federal law, and a few senators and congressmen possibly even give people land if they move there, like the old homesteaders in Alaska. It could be the new Wild Wild West in the East. I see what you did there. This clever turn of phrase. But yeah, so Dylan, if that's what he's talking about, I kind of wonder how the rest of the neighbors will feel about that. The big problem that the Arab world and the Muslim world in large has with Israel isn't necessarily the fact that they're Jewish or they're non-Muslim, or, they hijack planes and fly them into buildings, or they mistreat people. It's that they have a carve out in what they expect to be Muslim territory that's non-Muslim, that's not going to convert. So if we just move ourselves there, we will be that same thorn in their side, possibly an even bigger thorn in their side. In fact, they might look at it as a step back, like, okay, now we have two thorns in our side. Now, I'm not saying necessarily that won't work. I'm saying you're pretty much picking a fight. And if we win that fight, they may just say, you know what, that's not a battle worth fighting anymore, and it may work out favorably. But I don't see the rest of the Muslim world just saying this is okay for a long period of time. Like, I don't know if they're popping off right now and we just haven't heard it, or maybe they'll just wait until Trump's out of power and we get the next human Roomba like Joe Biden in there before they jump. But I'm not sure if that's the long game that they're playing on this one. It might be. That you can hear the doubt in my voice, I bet. Also, I had some feedback over here on the Facebook. By the way, if you want to email me, james@wbap.com. It's no big secret there. We had Rick saying, Bongino has it right. Trump is telling all the players in the Gaza mess that what they have been doing is not working and they need to figure it out and do it now. If we have to do it, no one will like it. Hello, Jordan and Egypt. And so I responded, yes, of course, I don't really think we were putting a Buc-ee's in Gaza. And then he added, actually, we could if we had to. So, okay. I like the sound of that. Yeah, I really like the sound of the friendship, the extending of an olive branch, just pointing out that we're not that different. You like guns and oil and religion? Well, so do we. You're half Texan as it is. And if they could see like our movies, our music, if they could hear the James Show, and if they didn't have everything coming from the West filtered through, the translation or their government or their censorship or their preferred, media channels that are heavily censored and controlled, it'd be hard for them to not like us on a long enough time scale. And I feel like we could win these people over. And, the Buc-ee's is only half a joke. If they saw what life was like, if we accepted the Western way of life, what do we get? We get this awesome, this is a gas station? Well, this is pretty amazing. What is this food over here? What do you call this in English? Whataburger? Well, damn, I like that too. And then they would start, maybe opening up to other aspects of our culture, and I think they would like it. And they'd be like, hang on now. I know we say we want women in like headscarves and fully dressed and looking like the Imperial Guards in Return to the Jedi, but I kind of like this bikini action you guys got going too. You mean we could have like regular women and wearing bikinis? Oh man, they would really struggle to not become westernized because our life's pretty awesome. Lainey Wilson fans, she's coming to Dickies Arena September 19th. For tickets and information, go to livenation.com. But for the rest of this week, if you listen to the WBAP morning show, my friends over there, when you're waking up on your way to work, they're going to be giving away tickets tomorrow and the next day. So maybe you can win a pair of tickets from our buddies here at WBAP. Also want to remind you, our buddies over at KLIF, they got Brian Kilmeade coming to town. He just joined the KLIF lineup last year. Did an appearance and liked it so much that he's going to be coming back. So look for more information on that. And it's not just him. I'll be there too. But he'll be February 26th at Community Beer. Thank you very much for hanging out. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.